Have you ever wondered why some men freeze the moment someone gets too close? Why trust feels dangerous, even when the heart quietly craves connection? And why past wounds echo louder than present love? Psychology reveals that unresolved trauma doesn't just shape memory, it reshapes the entire way a man learns to trust again. Stay with me, and you'll discover the hidden patterns behind this fear, and how understanding them can finally open the door to safer, deeper relationships. Trust is not lost overnight. It fades through moments that seem small at the time, but cut deeply enough to change how a man sees relationships. When trauma goes unhealed, it reshapes his ability to open up, believe in others, and feel safe in vulnerability. Psychology shows that unresolved wounds silently define how he behaves, loves, and protects himself. Today, we'll explore why men struggle to trust after emotional injuries, and how these hidden experiences influence their reactions, fears, and longing for real connection. Trust is one of the most fragile elements of a man's emotional world, and when it breaks, the experience leaves behind layers of psychological residue that don't simply disappear. A man who has gone through unresolved trauma often carries it like a silent weight, one he rarely talks about because he believes vulnerability will make him appear weak. This internalized belief shapes his entire relationship with trust. Instead of showing the pain, he learns to hide it, constructing emotional walls designed to keep him safe, even if they also keep him isolated. Psychology explains that trauma alters the nervous system, placing the brain in a constant state of alert. When someone he once trusted betrayed or abandoned him, his brain recorded that moment as a threat. So every time a new relationship presents itself, even one filled with genuine affection, his body remembers the danger. He may not consciously fear the person in front of him, but he fears the emotional memories triggered inside him. This is why he may flinch at intimacy, question sincerity, or appear distant when someone gets too close. Many men grew up without learning emotional language, which means they never learned how to express fear, sadness, or vulnerability. As children, they were taught to be strong, to suppress tears, and to move on without discussing how they felt. This conditioning turns into adulthood silence. When trauma happens, they don't have the tools to process it. Instead, they bury it. Psychology refers to this as emotional avoidance, a coping mechanism that feels protective at first but becomes destructive over time. Because he doesn't resolve the trauma, he reenacts its consequences. He might sabotage relationships by withdrawing when things get serious, overthinking every action, or doubting someone's intentions even when there is no reason to. He may crave closeness yet fear it, creating a conflict between what he wants and what he feels safe allowing. This internal contradiction is exhausting. To others, it looks like inconsistency. To him, it's survival. Another common psychological pattern is hyperindependence. After being hurt, he convinces himself he doesn't need anyone. He learns to rely only on himself to avoid the risk of disappointment. But in reality, hyperindependence is just trauma wearing a mask. The man wants connection, but his past taught him that depending on someone might lead to abandonment. So he becomes self-contained, rational, and emotionally closed, not because he lacks emotion, but because emotion once led to everything falling apart. All of these behaviors stem from a single unhealed moment, a wound that may have come from betrayal, rejection, childhood neglect, or a relationship that broke him when he least expected it. Without healing, that moment continues to shape how he trusts. And until he acknowledges the wound, trust remains a battlefield where he is fighting ghosts. When psychology studies men who struggle with trust, one principle appears repeatedly. Unresolved trauma creates distorted beliefs about relationships. These beliefs become automatic, shaping how he perceives others, even if he isn't aware of it. For example, he may assume people will eventually leave, lie, or hurt him. This assumption isn't based on the present. It's a projection of the past. His mind uses old pain as a compass, even when it leads him away from real connection. This often results in overanalyzing everything. A delayed message becomes a sign of rejection. A change in tone becomes a threat. A small disagreement becomes evidence that the relationship will fail. These reactions seem exaggerated, but to a man who carries trauma, they feel logical. His brain is constantly scanning for danger, not because he wants to be difficult, but because he wants to protect himself from repeating a hurt that once felt unbearable. Many men also experience emotional numbness as a defense mechanism. Psychology calls this dissociation, where feelings become muted to shield the mind from overwhelming stress. He might appear calm, indifferent, or detached, but internally he's avoiding triggers that remind him of past pain. This numbness isn't a lack of emotion. It's emotion turned off for survival. Another consequence is difficulty trusting good moments. When something feels too positive, too stable, or too loving, he becomes suspicious. Trauma teaches the brain that calm comes before chaos, so peace feels like a warning instead of safety. He prepares for disappointment, even when none is coming. This creates tension in relationships because he unintentionally pushes away the very things he longs for: closeness, affection, and emotional safety. Communication also becomes complicated. A man with trauma may struggle to articulate his fears, not because he doesn't want to share, but because he doesn't know how. He may worry that expressing vulnerability will make him appear weak or unlovable, so he keeps everything inside, hoping the fear will fade on its own, even though unresolved emotions only grow stronger in silence. One of the deepest wounds in traumatized men is shame. They feel ashamed of having been hurt, ashamed of trusting the wrong person, ashamed of not being able to get over it. Shame convinces him that something is wrong with him, making it even harder to open up or believe that someone could accept him fully. This becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. He hides his pain, which prevents healing, which reinforces his belief that he must keep hiding. Ultimately, the difficulty in trusting isn't rooted in a lack of desire. Men with trauma often want love more intensely than they admit. The struggle comes from fearing that giving trust again will break them beyond repair. But psychology also shows that healing is possible, and trust can be rebuilt when emotional wounds are finally acknowledged instead of buried. Unresolved trauma affects not only a man's emotions, but also the way his brain processes relationships. When trust is broken in a deep or unexpected way, the mind forms what psychology calls protective schemas, patterns designed to shield him from future pain. These schemas operate automatically, influencing his decisions and reactions even when he wants to behave differently. One common schema is abandonment expectation. If he has been left before, emotionally or physically, his brain assumes it will happen again. This assumption creates fear-driven behavior. He might cling too tightly or detach completely. Both are attempts to avoid the shock of being hurt again. Even when a partner is consistent and loving, he may struggle to believe it because his trauma tells him that security is temporary. Another pattern is mistrust sensitivity. This is when every interaction is evaluated for potential harm. He becomes skilled at noticing microsignals, changes in facial expressions, tone shifts, late replies, or ambiguous comments. These small details become amplified in his mind, creating anxiety and doubt. He isn't overreacting intentionally. His nervous system has been trained to detect threats, even where none exist. Trust issues can also manifest through emotional withdrawal. When a situation feels overwhelming, he may pull back suddenly. He might disappear for hours, become quieter, or avoid conversations that require vulnerability. This withdrawal is a rejection. It's a coping mechanism in his mind. Staying silent feels safer than expressing feelings that could lead to conflict or disappointment. Men with trauma also struggle with self-worth. When someone hurt him deeply, he internalized a message that he wasn't enough or that something was wrong with him. This belief makes it difficult to accept love fully because part of him fears he doesn't deserve it. Compliments feel suspicious. Affection feels conditional. He waits for the moment someone realizes he's not worth it, even though this idea was born from someone else's betrayal, not reality. Another psychological factor is future avoidance. Because his past experiences were painful, he may avoid imagining a future with someone. Making plans, dreaming together, or discussing long-term commitment triggers anxiety. Not because he doesn't want a future, but because commitment feels like a risk, another door that someone could walk out of. At the same time, these men often have incredibly deep souls. They love intensely, care fully, and notice emotional details others ignore. Their fear of trusting comes from the depth of their heart, not the absence of it. Loving deeply once left a scar, so they protect themselves not out of coldness, but out of caution. Healing begins when he recognizes that his reactions are not character flaws. They are trauma responses. Understanding this gives him the first step toward reclaiming trust, compassion for himself. When he stops seeing his fears as weaknesses and starts seeing them as wounds, he can finally begin to heal them. Healing trust after trauma is not about forgetting what happened. It's about learning to feel safe again. For many men, this process begins with acknowledging the painful truth they've avoided for years. They were hurt in a way that changed them. Accepting the wound is a first step toward freeing themselves from it. Psychology emphasizes that healing requires confronting emotions rather than burying them. When he allows himself to feel anger, sadness, betrayal, or fear, he starts to release the weight he's been carrying. One of the most powerful tools for rebuilding trust is emotional awareness. A man who struggles to trust often misinterprets his own reactions. He mistakes fear for intuition, anxiety for danger, and defensive withdrawal for logic. Learning to separate past triggers from present reality gives him clarity. It allows him to understand when he is reacting to an old wound rather than a current situation. Another important step is vulnerability. This is difficult for many men because trauma taught them that opening up leads to pain. But true connection requires honesty about fears, needs, and insecurities. Vulnerability doesn't mean being weak. It means being brave enough to show the truth. When he expresses his feelings, he invites someone to understand him instead of guessing. And when he is understood, trust becomes easier. Healthy relationships also play a crucial role in healing. A partner who shows consistency, patience, and emotional safety becomes a stabilizing force. Someone who listens without judging and supports without pressuring helps him redefine what trust feels like. Each positive experience rewires the brain, teaching him that connection doesn't always lead to pain. Over time, these small moments form new emotional patterns, replacing fear with security. Another key element is self-compassion. Many men blame themselves for being hurt, believing they should have known better or been stronger. This self-blame keeps them trapped in shame. Psychology shows that healing accelerates when a man stops treating himself like the cause of his trauma and starts recognizing that he was the victim of someone else's actions. Self-compassion allows him to see his fears as understandable,
even if he
not
isn't
shameful.
fully ready,
Rebuilding
the
trust
fact that
also
he
means
still
setting
hopes
boundaries.
for connection
Trauma often
means his
confuses
heart
boundaries with
hasn't
walls.
given up.
A wall keeps
Healing
everyone out,
dose and tea
but a boundary
erase
lets
the
the right
past,
people in while
but
keeping
it gives
harmful
him the
people
strength
away.
to choose
Learning
a
this
future
distinction
where
empowers
trust
him.
is possible
Instead of avoiding
again.
connection altogether, he learns to evaluate relationships more clearly and protect himself without isolating himself. Finally, he must realize that trust doesn't return all at once. It comes back slowly through small moments of safety, honesty, and emotional presence. Each step forward matters. And even if he isn't fully ready, the fact that he still hopes for connection means his heart hasn't given up. Healing doesn't erase the past, but it gives him the strength to choose a future where trust is possible again. If this message spoke to a part of you that rarely has a voice, stay with this channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else breathe again. Subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of your own healing journey.